Hello, welcome. Here we have Sakota and Clark here for a Q&A about their expedition. Let's begin. Who led the expedition?
The person who led the expedition was Captain Meriwether Lewis.
Tell us about your background, where you were born and how you grew up.
I was born in Virginia, but I grew up in Kentucky.
I was a Shoshone woman. I was born around 1788 and was kidnapped by a Hadassah war party. When I was 12 years old, I was later sold into marriage to a French Canadian trapper named Toussaint Charbonneau in 1804 when I was 16 years old and pregnant with my first child.
Who was the president of that time?
Thomas Jefferson was the president at that time. He hired Lewis and I to look at the Louisiana Purchase along the west of the United States.
Clark, what did you do before the expedition?
I was in the Kentucky Militia in 1789. Later on, I joined the U.S. Army and became an officer. Then, I met Lewis in 1795, and we began our expedition in 1804.
Sakota, where and how did you meet Lewis and Clark?
I first met Lewis and Clark in the winter of 1804 to 1805. At the time, I was a member of the Shoshone tribe and was living with my husband. Lewis and Clark were looking for a guide to help them navigate the Western Territory, and my husband was hired as an interpreter. As a result, I was recruited to join the expedition as well as a navigator and guider.
How did you eat and save your food for many years?
The team used a combination of strategies to eat and save food during the Lewis and Clark expedition. We relied on hunting, fishing, gathering, preserving, and trading to keep ourselves fed and nourished.
Sakota, can you describe what the journey was like?
The journey during the expedition was very challenging, yet exciting. We traveled through vast, uncharted wilderness, encountering a variety of landscapes, wildlife, and Native American tribes. We faced many dangers, including rough terrain, harsh weather, and the risk of attack from hostile tribes. Despite these challenges, the expedition was successful in accomplishing its mission to explore.
How many miles did you travel?
Lewis and I covered about 8,000 miles, roughly equivalent to 12,875 kilometers, during our journey from Missouri to the Pacific Ocean and back.
What were some of your worries?
Some of our worries were getting lost. We didn't know the land, so if we got lost, we wouldn't know our way back. Another worry was finding food. We didn't know where some of the food would be found or where the animals lived so we can hunt. Lastly, surviving the weather. A lot of the time it was cold, so we didn't want to get sick, especially if we didn't have heavy coats or hats.
How did Lewis die?
He was deeply troubled and attempted suicide the first time. Later on October 9th, 1809, he apparently shot himself with the gunshot wounds in the head and the chest.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lanna, and I'm here interviewing Lewis, Clark, and Sakota. I'm sure we have lots of questions for them, so let's begin. What was the main purpose of the expedition?
The main purpose of the expedition was to explore land boundary the Louisiana Purchase and find a water route to the Pacific Ocean known as the Northwest Passage.
How many miles did you travel?
The voyage covered more than 8,000 miles, all in less than 2.5 years.
What food did you have, and did you experience any periods of starvation?
We ate dogs, deer, elks, and buffaloes we bought from the Indians during the journey. During bad weathers and rough terrain, we were on the verge of starvation.
How many people were brought on the expedition?
45 people, including the 3 of us, were brought on the expedition.
Did anyone die on the expedition, and if so, how?
We only experienced one death throughout our entire expedition. It was Sergeant Floor, who died because of a burst of appendix.
Describe how you felt during your time traveling.
The journey was filled with harsh weather and faithful decisions. We never knew the challenges each day was going to bring, but we had to keep our hopes up.
Sakota, what were your contributions during the expedition?
I had many contributions to the expedition, including translation and guiding the men. I would guide them by recognizing landmarks from my old home.
How many boats did you have to make on the expedition?
We started the expedition with 3 boats. Throughout the expedition, we carved 15 boats.
How did you prepare for the expedition?
We study medicine, botany, astronomy, and zoology. We study maps and journals. We spent about a year planning and preparing for this expedition.
How long did it take you guys to reach the Pacific Ocean?
On November 15, 1805, we reached the Pacific Ocean at the mouth of the Columbian River. 1 year, 6 months, and 1 day after leaving St. Louis, Missouri.
Thank you, Sacagawea, Lewis, and Clark for this information, and congrats on your successful journey.
Hi, my name is Gianna, and today I have two special guests. To start things off, what are your names and where are you from?
My name is Meriwether Lewis. I was born in Virginia but grew up in Georgia. From there, I moved back to Virginia to attend college and joined the Virginia State Militia. Then I became a captain of the U.S. Army and a personal secretary to President Thomas Jefferson.
My name is William Clark, and I was also born in Virginia. I moved to Kentucky to live with my family at age 15. When I was 19, I joined the state militia and was eventually commissioned as Lieutenant of Infantry by President George Washington. Eventually, in 1796, Lewis here asked me to go on a journey to explore the West.
What did you do to prepare for this journey?
I studied medicine, botany, astronomy, and zoology, and studied existing maps and journals of the region. Also, some supplies I collected were compasses, quadrants, telescopes, clothing, and a 55-foot keel boat.
I trained the men to build log forts and cabins. We practiced marching in formation, using their weapons, and shooting targets. Some supplies I collected were weapons and ammunitions, medicines and supplies, fishing equipment, and maps.
What people did you bring back to the expedition?
Prior to the expedition, I recruited and trained men. I specifically looked for unmarried, healthy men who were good hunters and knew survival skills.
The expedition party included 45 members, including Clark and I, with 27 unmarried soldiers, a French to Indian interpreter, a contracted boat crew, and an enslaved person owned by Clark named York.
What people did you encounter during this trip?
Clark and I discovered around 50 different Native American tribes, including the Shoshone, Mandan, Matari, and the Blackfeet. Most of the land we surveyed was practically occupied by the tribes.
When we reached the Pacific Ocean, we met Indians who were excellent woodworkers and who built large houses, boats, and totem poles. They lived near the Tillamook and the Chinook.
Do you think this trip would have been successful if you didn't encounter Sacagawea? Why or why not?
We most likely would not have succeeded if we had not encountered Sacagawea, because she was a vital part of translating to other tribes, and she was also a guide for us to the Pacific Coast.
Did you discover anything interesting? If so, what?
Lewis and I mapped uncharted lands, rivers, and mountains. We brought back journals filled with details about Native American tribes and scientific notes about plants and animals Lewis and I had never seen before.
In fact, we discovered at least 178 plants and 122 animals, including mammals, birds, reptiles, and fish.
What did you do to get food?
We packed about 7 tons of food, including 11 bags of hulled corn, 30 half barrels of flour, 1 keg of hog's lard, 1 bag of coffee, 2 bags of sugar, and 193 pounds of portable soup.
The type of meat we ate differed between the climate and the terrain. We ate bison and deer during the crossing of the Great Plains, and salmon and starchy tuber sustained us while we crossed the Great Plains.
We also ate a lot of fish along the way. The candlefish being the best fish I have ever tasted.
What were some hardships you faced?
On our way to the Pacific Ocean, we faced harsh weathers, rough terrain, hazardous waters, injuries, starvation, disease, and hostile Native Americans.
Also, because we had no accurate maps, there was a risk that we would get lost.
What was your route throughout the journey?
We began in Washington, D.C. and zigzagged along the eastern seaboard, going through the states of Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Then proceeded through Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, and Missouri.
The journey took us 1 year, 6 months, and 1 day to arrive at our destination, and it took us 10 months and 9 days to come back. So I would say that the whole journey took about 2 years, 4 months, and 10 days in all.
What was your overall goal with this expedition?
Our main objective was to survey the Missouri and Columbia rivers, and include locating routes that would connect the continental interior to the Pacific Ocean.
We also built nationwide commerce network and made friends with American Indians and Cape Cod.
Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Hello, my name is Nicola, and today I'm here with Lewis and Clark to talk about their famous expedition. First question, what was the original goal of this expedition, and what did you end up discovering?
Our original goal for this expedition, instructed by Thomas Jefferson, was to seek new trade routes, establish relations with the American Indians, and confirm or deny the theory of an all-water Northwest Passage to the Pacific Ocean. We ended up discovering at least 178 plants and 122 animals, including mammals, birds, reptiles, and fish. We made the first attempt at a systematic record of the meteorology of the West. We also attempted to determine the latitude and longitude of significant geographical points. We never found the Northwest Passage.
Which people were there to aid you on your expedition? In other words, who was part of the crew?
There was me, Clark, 27 soldiers, a French and Indian interpreter, a contracted boat crew, and a slave person owned by Clark named York. Most important, Sakota helped us befriend American Indians.
What were some of the challenges you had to face?
We faced many challenges along the way, like bad weather, animal attacks, and encounters with Indians. In the end, we were able to map out most of the West and Pacific Ocean areas. We eventually discovered new animals and plants.
Do you regret anything that happened on the expedition?
We don't regret anything that happened. We may have faced certain difficulties, but we were determined to accomplish our mission of exploring and mapping the island.
Did you guys ever endure any serious injuries while on the expedition?
We have had some serious injuries. Lewis was shot by a crew member during a hunting incident. I was bitten by a beaver while attempting to catch it. We eventually recovered and overcame many hazards and obstacles along the way.
Did you guys ever argue on the trip? Why or why not?
We have had some disagreements, but we never had any huge arguments, and always offered a great deal of support for each other.
How were you ever compensated for your work in expedition?
Both Lewis and I received double pay and 1,600 acres of land for our efforts. Lewis was made governor of the Louisiana Territory. I was appointed brigadier general of the militia for Louisiana Territory and a federal Indian agent.
How did you document your findings during the journey?
We use a combination of journals, maps, specimens, and sketches to document and provide a comprehensive account of our findings during our journey.
What route did you take during your expedition?
We first followed the Missouri River upstream from St. Louis, Missouri. After reaching the headwaters of the Missouri River, we crossed over the Rocky Mountains through the Lemhi Pass and descended the Clearwater River until we reached the Snake River. We followed the Snake River to the Columbia River and then sailed downstream to the Pacific Ocean, reaching the Oregon coast. And on our return journey, we retraced our route back to St. Louis.
Approximately, what was the distance and time range of the expedition?
We began the expedition on May 14, 1804, and we were back by September 23, 1806. We traveled more than 8,000 miles throughout the expedition.
Thank you, Liz and Clark, for this information. Congrats on a successful expedition.
Thank you.
Thank you.